Hello, Mitch Miller here, Wednesday, September 28th, 2022 at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. This is my video journal, and I am systematically challenging the United States military to a pistol duel or wrestling match, a non-lethal pistol duel. Got a little whiskey here because I went out for drinks with a coworker, celebrated a birthday. So I figured I'll just keep it going for a little bit. Systematically challenging the United States military, so we're on the Chief Warrant Officer 3. If you achieve this rank in the United States military or any of its branches, in the U.S. Army or any of its branches, I challenge you to a duel using non-lethal paintball pistols. Since we do not have these prototypes, we'll revert to a wrestling match using scholastic rules. If you win this duel, you delay me challenging the next rank down in the military by 6 months. You will also receive a piece of my art valued at millions of dollars. That's all I have to offer you at this time for winning. If you lose this duel, you must find money in your budget to fund my non-lethal and smart weapons company. If you cannot find the funds or approval in your budget, you must use some of your personal monies to fund this project. In return, you will receive a stock certificate granting you ownership in the company and or a piece of my art valued at millions of dollars. If you deny, reject, ignore, or otherwise shrug this challenge off, you are first and foremost a coward, and secondly, all the blood and death of any military action around the world is on your hands for not validating and justifying this form of modern warfare, a form of warfare that uses the basic skills taught to every military globally, that of marksmanship and hand-to-hand combat. So that's out of the way. So I said last week that I would talk about contracts and how a key position in contracts could alert me to certain futures. And I want to talk about how I'm in tune with these wireless waves you've created, this artificial intelligence you've created, these supercomputers you've created, and also possibly the stars and the heavenly bodies all aligning to make a better world, to create a better world. If you would just get on board and fund some of my projects, that would be great. But and I'm going to end with how I think I should receive a larger stipend than $1,011 per month for being in tune with these different frequencies that you created. I think the government should pay me a stipend, and I'll just live off of that and form these nonprofits to change the world into an amazing place. But I need the funding, and I don't want to work in an embroidery shop. Fun story I'll tell you about the embroidery shop real quick before I go into this contract wireless wave thing. The guy that works at the shop a couple doors down, WPC Sportswear, Billy the son, came over to the shop the other day. He said, I think I figured something out. I couldn't really hear what he was saying to Nick. He said, I was using super glue and it started smoking. You guys want to come see? So we went over to his shop, and he had the backing, the pieces of basically glued together fabric, paper that we use to put on the back of every garment that the pattern sews through. I touch them hundreds of times a day. He had something mess up on the machine, so he was trying to use super glue on the backing to bind the thread, and he poured some super glue on the backing, and it started smoking, and he breathed the smoke in and kind of passed out for a minute. So whatever they're binding this backing with in the garment industry, it reacts to super glue and smokes. It literally smokes without any flame, spark, ignition, anything. Those two glues have a chemical reaction, and smoke. They put out a little puff of smoke. So that's what I touch every day, is some kind of chemical. I don't want to work at this embroidery shop anymore. There's a wireless array on a tower just up the hill from us. I'd appreciate it if you would fund me so that I no longer have to work in this shop and I can be free to start my projects. Okay. So my father-in-law, I've written about my father-in-law, I've talked about my father-in-law, I've confronted my father-in-law on audio and video. My father-in-law is from Meadville, Pennsylvania, and was the tool and die capital of the world. And if you believe in telepathy, that the CIA, that whoever, corporations have been trying to develop telepathy, ways to communicate using only the mind. They would develop this obviously for Navy SEALs and things like that so that they could do operations without speaking. So it would function off the minds of others and the Wi-Fi waves. So I've made the argument that he rose up through the company of Johnson & Johnson to his position because of all the hardworking tool and die machinists and how complex their minds work to know fractions and decimals to lathe and build little machine parts. So you might say, I think my father-in-law is evil. I don't. I don't think he's the most ethical man in the world, and he's a staunch conservative in many regards. We kind of have a symbiotic relationship, and perhaps he entered the corporate executive echelon to shield me in the work that I do. It definitely gave me a taste of a different level of income that I would have never been exposed to had I not met my wife. But he strategically placed himself within the Johnson & Johnson organization in contracts and strategy. And if Johnson & Johnson had satellites up there that were developing telepathy and communication, there's this contract position would shoot up red flags as to possible futures. If the supercomputers were reaching across dimensions to warn people, say this telepathy functioned off of, it's capitalism, off of how much stock you own in satellites, in communications companies, and who inherits that stock. And it's a complex thing I made up. I was psychotic. I admit it. But this complex system where people, the wealthy, the moneyed, are able to kind of lord over people with telepathy and invade their minds with obscenities and things like that. And it kind of all boils down to just flirting in your head or attacking people in their head with obscenities. But I won't go into that. Maybe you've experienced that. Maybe you're in the military and you've experienced that. So if we dive into this world where these billionaires want to put implants in their brains to communicate with AI and supercomputers, but I think we can already do it without implants. Maybe it'd be more fine-tuned if everybody had an implant, obviously. Let's not do that. So a company like Johnson & Johnson could take or any pharmaceutical company, but they have contracts with everyone in the United States. So if we jump into this brave new world, they would dominate everyone, and their executives would dominate everyone. And you may ask, what do you mean? Well, they have contracts with every drugstore chain in the United States. They have contracts with every hospital in the United States. They have contracts with every urgent care. They have contracts with machinists and medical device makers. They have contracts with and this is what, and that's just the medical side of things. Think of the medical contracts they have actively electronic, because we've entered a digital age where they're in electronic things. So they have all these contracts with healthcare, and that's what I meant when I said to my father-in-law when I confronted him from Denmark, I need you to hire a private person to investigate my physical symptoms. It cannot be a doctor on the take from the pharmaceutical companies. And he said, well, you can have any doctor you want. You can have a doctor in Franklin, you can have a doctor in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that are getting paid off by the pharmaceutical companies. I needed to pay a private physician to investigate my symptoms. Anyhow, they have contracts with everyone. Think about all the products. They have Band-Aids. They have contracts with militaries for gauze, Band-Aids, bandages. I made that point in another screenplay. So do they want war to end? No, because they sell more gauze if war doesn't end, if war continues to go across the globe. And here's the kicker, and this might be why you can't find anybody to work in your restaurants. They have contracts. They have Johnson & Johnson developed Splenda, an artificial sweetener. So they have contracts with drink companies, Coca-Cola, stuff like that. I don't know who carries the Splenda brand, but they have contracts with every restaurant, hotels, all the businesses that you can think of. Even Google has a cafe with Splenda in it, I betcha. So every business that carries an artificial sweetener like that has a contract, some kind of subcontract that a guy like Charles Gilbert Kohler Jr. could slide in special communications clauses where, the telecommunication takes over, and you have servers, bartenders that are getting insults and obscenities slammed into their brain because they slipped into the Wi-Fi contract and everything else. That it would be a mess to do telecommunication. I don't know why anybody would try to develop it. But that's what we're dealing with. That's what I'm in tune with. I can see the future. I'm in touch with this, and you have these huge corporations that have contracts with even the smallest diner on a street corner, that there's nowhere you can go to escape the telecommunication and the craziness that they would develop, because they're nuts. They are nuts. It can be so much simpler. We can use technology in such better ways than some kind of non-verbal telecommunication type of situation. And I offered to talk to the Pentagon about this. I wrote them a letter. So that's this segment. That's what I want to talk about. The danger of one position with access to all the contracts, and his hereditary rights, the heirs to his fortune, whether it's monetary or telepathic, is someone like me, someone like his daughter, and we would see these things, and I tried to point them out. So I've pointed out very real national security issues. I'm talking about other hypothetical national security issues or just general human rights issues. I feel that I should be compensated for something I did not volunteer for, but the supercomputers found my sensitivity. The artificial intelligence found my sensitivity. They expose me. They bring new thoughts into my mind, and it's a human-computer collaboration that we're working on solving. But I also have to throw things out there like the semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles. I didn't want to scare anyone, but I only get 43 listeners on my podcast, so I might as well put it out there because it's not going to scare millions of people. I'm not a conspiracy theorist that fucking, sorry for swearing, but that scares millions of people into doing crazy stuff. I have 43 listeners, so I put it out there. I figured I'd put it out there and let it lie. But these are really very real threats that I'm in tune with, and I should be compensated by the federal government, who doesn't protect my house from these wireless waves. doesn't protect my house from satellites beaming a solid state of energy into my house, doesn't protect me in any way, putting myself out there to create peace, and they're not really, maybe under the radar, they're protecting me in some way. I don't know, but my point is, I should be compensated. I think my stipend should go up from $1,011 to $6,000 or $6,666, like I received on my first payment from Social Security. That should be my monthly payment. I can adhere to whatever guidelines they give me. If they don't want me to go to Ukraine, if I'm too valuable and I need to get permission to leave the country, I can adhere to all that. I can even keep it cash. I can just say my Social Security payment went up, and I'll take the cash and put it in my private account and use cash to fund my projects and pull it off of that card. But I think that I'm a valuable person in tune with a lot of different things, and I warn people because I don't want to see people die or be inundated with telepathy and all kinds of stupid shit that these kids want to do because the video games say that they can do it, right? And the video games justify it and idolize it. Telepathy, oh, all these magical powers and these superheroes. Hollywood putting out all these superhero frickin' movies about special powers. Stupid. This society is stupid. They are going in stupid directions. Let's bring it back down to earth, and let's simplify it and not make it crazy. And that's the other thing. We have an interesting thing where Wyatt Kohler, the son of Casey Kohler, worked at a video game company, a nationwide video game store franchise that had stock, and it comes down to negotiations in your head. If you're the contracts guy, you want to negotiate, and you're negotiating, you can trade your stocks in your head, you can negotiate in your head, and that's one thing I experienced in my living room while in that period in late December or early December, negotiations. It was almost as if I had an agent, a female agent working for me, helping me negotiate with, it was big name celebrities, and they're going to use you celebrities to negotiate in people's head when this telepathy crap comes out. It was sex negotiations, it was working together on project negotiations. They were tapping into projects I had in my head because I never write them down on my computers. And then that evolved to coordinating, taking all of the satellite imagery off of Pittsburgh, denying satellites to be able to fly over the city of Pittsburgh. And I had coordinated with major leadership worldwide. I said, we're going to rebuild this whole city, make it totally solar, totally sustainable. We're going to put a wired internet in. We're going to have wired and take all the wireless out of this city. And you can do it too. But the give and take was the United States doesn't want to give up its satellite imagery of cities because they're afraid they're going to build some kind of nuclear city that can build nuclear weapons and things like that, underground city like Oak Ridge. And so the agreement is like a city in the United States, you can do it in a city in the United States because anybody can come here, anybody can take video with their phones. They might not be able to upload it immediately, but they can take video of any construction site in Pittsburgh and see that we're not building some kind of nuclear site to build nuclear weapons. So that's why we can do it in the United States. You take the satellites off. So I negotiated with all these leadership around the world because they're tuned into this crap, it turned into a whole high stakes negotiation type situation. So that's where we're at. Negotiations in your head, obscenities in your head, sex negotiations in your head. It's all stupid. It's insane. Don't do it. Shut down some Wi-Fi in some of these cities so that we don't have to deal with this crap, and we can just be in tune with the sun and the stars that naturally occur on this planet. That's my plea to you. If you're willing to open up your city to recording construction sites and not having to take aerial images to check up on every superpower around the globe, write to me, contact me, and let me know. But next time we'll talk about the SOBs, the Society of Billionaires, and how they tortured me in my house while I painted 42 Guy Fawkes, Mitch Miller paintings. So join me next time. Thanks for watching.